At 7 p.m., we're using Eastern Standard Time throughout, polls close in 6 states. Indiana, where running mate Mike Pence is governor, will almost surely go for Donald Trump. But Indiana could tell us something important about later states, as Sean Trend, senior election analyst for Real Clear Politics, notes.
That's a state that Mitt Romney won by 11 points in 2012. So if Donald Trump is over that, if he's up around 15–16%, maybe even approaching George W. Bush's 20% win from 2004, then we'll know that we've got a race on our hands.
Indiana is also the site of one of the key U.S. Senate races. Democrats need to gain 5 Senate seats to take control there. And when ex-Senator Evan Bayh decided to run for his old seat, it looked like a sure Democratic gain. But his post-Senate career as a lobbyist has brought him down into a dead heat with Republican Congressman Todd Young.
If he is losing or if it's tied, it would suggest real problems for the Democrat Senate prospects.
In Virginia, Clinton's been well ahead in the polls, and her running mate, Senator Tim Kaine, is from there. And Obama won it twice. If Virginia is close, that's a sign of real trouble for Clinton. By contrast, if Clinton is close in Georgia, that'll be a sign that her base, African Americans and college-educated whites, have turned out to vote. At 7:30, polls close in 3 states, 2 of them especially critical for Trump. It's endlessly said that no Republican has ever won the White House without Ohio, and this year, its large white working-class population seems to be leaning strongly to Trump. He's leading in the polls. But, Sean Trend says, watch the margins.
If Donald Trump is winning Ohio by 4, 5, maybe even 6 points, then again, we know that we have a pretty good suspicion that not only is he doing what he absolutely needs to do, he's doing a little bit better, and we probably are looking for some surprises as the later states close.
North Carolina's been a battleground in recent years. Obama won it by a point in 2008, lost it by 2 points in 2012. If Clinton wins here, it's very hard to chart a path to the White House for Trump. North Carolina is also the site of another key Senate race. 2-term Republican Richard Burr is in an unexpectedly close race against Democratic former state legislator Deborah Ross. 8 p.m. brings a flood of poll closings, 16 states plus Washington, D.C. You might remember one of them, Florida. It played a starring role back in 2000, as we waited a month to find out who would be president. This time, it's a state that Clinton does not need, but if she were to win those 29 electoral votes, she'd be just about assured of victory. Pennsylvania, on the other hand, is a state Clinton very much does need. For the last 6 elections, Pennsylvania has been for Republicans what Lucy and her football is to Charlie Brown, always just out of reach.
Everybody in Pennsylvania wants Trump, you know.
Winning it for Trump would drive a big hole through that blue wall of solidly Democratic states.
If Trump were to win Pennsylvania outright, it would suggest that he probably is going to win a bunch of other states that have similar or even less favorable demographics for the Democrats. You know, states like Wisconsin, maybe Michigan.
Pennsylvania also has one of those critical Senate battles between Republican incumbent Pat Toomey and Democratic former state official Katie McGinty. With some $113 million spent, it is the most expensive Senate contest in the country. Trump is a major factor here, with Toomey keeping his distance and McGinty trying to tie him to Trump. Besides being a presidential battleground, New Hampshire has a key Senate race.
It's nice to see you.
First-term Senator Kelly Ayotte is running for re-election against Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan, another key race where the polls say it's just about even. And surprisingly, in Missouri, Republican Senator Roy Blunt, member of the state's most powerful Republican family, is in a tough battle against Democratic Secretary of State Jason Kander, who vaulted into prominence with the single most talked about ad of the entire year.
In the Army, I learned how to use and respect my rifle. I also believe in background checks so that terrorists can't get their hands on one of these. I approve this message because I'd like to see Senator Blunt do this.
Blunt is an establishment guy running in an anti-establishment year.
At 9 p.m., polls close in 13 more states. Michigan and Wisconsin, 2 states that are part of the Democratic firewall, have been special Trump targets.
Right now, the polls are showing Hillary Clinton pretty consistently in the lead. But again, if Trump is overperforming the polls, those states become very dicey, especially Wisconsin.
It's a different demographic shift in states like Colorado and Arizona. Increasing Latino turnout helped turn Colorado blue for Obama twice. Clinton is counting on it to stay blue. And she's invested time and money in Arizona, a state that has voted Democratic for president once in the last 64 years. A win for her there could make up for any loss in one of those industrial Midwestern states. Democrats will be watching the Wisconsin Senate race very closely. They're counting on ex-Senator Russ Feingold to win back the seat he lost to Republican Ron Johnson 6 years ago. But that race has lately turned very tight. Once the 9 p.m. states are called, we may also start to see what the new House of Representatives will look like. There are House Republicans in serious trouble in New York, New Jersey, Florida, and Illinois, among other places. Democrats need to net 30 seats to take control, an unlikely prospect. But we'll start to know this hour whether the GOP is suffering minor, major, or no losses in the House of Representatives. At 10 o'clock, polls close in 4 states, 2 of them battlegrounds. Democrats have won Iowa 5 of the last 6 times, but this state has been trending Trump's way. And both campaigns have targeted Nevada, where early voting and a growing Latino population may favor Clinton. Nevada is the one state where a Democratic Senate seat is in danger. With Democratic leader Harry Reid retiring, Republican Congressman Joe Heck is running against the state's Democratic former Attorney General, Catherine Cortez Masto. 11 p.m., when 6 states close. And this is what we can say for sure. With California, Oregon, Washington State, and Hawaii, there are 78 electoral votes that are certain for Clinton. Trump can count on the 7 electoral votes from Idaho and North Dakota. But will those 78 electoral votes be enough to put Clinton over the top? That depends on what the vote count tells us in those earlier eastern and Midwestern states.
I want to have a big conversation coming up. Let me just remind all of you, Hillary Clinton, she's about to speak to voters in the battleground state of Michigan. We just saw her hop off the plane in Grand Rapids. Then she heads to Philadelphia, where she will rally with her biggest name surrogates, including the president and the first lady. Joining me now, Kayleigh McEnany, Trump supporter and CNN political commentator. Van Jones, CNN political commentator and former special advisor to President Obama. Chris Kofinas is back with us today, Democratic strategist and former communications director for John Edwards. And Matt Schlapp, Trump surrogate and the former political director for George W. Bush. Happy election eve, all. And Van, let me just begin with you. You know, the fact that we're about to hear from Hillary Clinton in Michigan. We know President Obama was talking to the students in Ann Arbor. We know Bill Clinton has been there. Why the emphasis on Michigan? I thought this was part of the blue wall.
Because
Why?
we're terrified. We're terrified. There's a crack in the blue wall. It has to do with trade. Trump took a big gamble. In some ways, he was willing to throw away the Sun Belt, really kind of alienate the Latinos because he thought it would give him a big advantage in the Rust Belt. And so he's trying to pull it in. I don't think he's going to pull it in, but people have no fingernails and their beds are wet.
You agree? You terrified?
No, I'm not terrified. I think it's smart strategy. No, don't worry. Don't worry about your nails. It should be fine. Okay.
Go ahead,
You may want
Kofinas.
to have a couple cocktails ready just in case. Listen, it's a day of state, which makes it, I think, more complicated.
Yeah.
We haven't really had a lot of polling. And anytime you get a poll that comes back within 4 or 5, you're wondering, well, it's trending the wrong direction. So I think they're being smart to go there. You have to have a big turnout amongst the African American community in Detroit and other parts of the state, and so they're really, I think, energizing that. At the end of the day, I'm not really worried about it. I think there are demographics there outside Detroit area that give concern, especially when you look at the challenges we're having in Iowa, some of the challenges we're having in Ohio.
Yep.
But I think it's smart strategy to do that. Same thing why she's going to be in Philadelphia tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's smart to go there, make sure that your firewall not only holds, but gets strengthened. And plus, you don't want Van to start.
We don't want any of
Van
this.
to bed.
No, oh my God, bad bit. No. We don't want any of that. But speaking of nerves and cocktails and biting nails, what about Florida, Kayleigh? Because we were looking at some of the numbers. First of all, more people have already voted in Florida, absentee and early voting, than all of that crazy 2000 election in Florida. So just note that. Number 2, Hispanic vote up 103% from 2008 to 2016. Does that make you want to bite your nails, given that many of these Hispanics may not be voting for your guy?
Well, I'm a Floridian. I love my state. I'm glad we have such high turnout. That's good.
Yeah.
The Latino numbers, I think that we are so almost naive to just drop it all in the Hillary bucket. I do think that there are a large swath of Cuban voters that will vote Trump. That being said, I'm not suggesting Trump's going to win the Latino vote outright, but I think something that is under-discussed is the fact that there are 1.2 million unaffiliated voters who turned out in Florida. We know Trump overperforms among independents. We also know that in Florida,
More Republicans turn out on Election Day.
Absolutely, and also Republicans voting in early is up 2% from 2012. Democrats are down 4%. I think he will pull out Florida. I think it will be a nail biter, but I do think he'll pull out Florida. Sorry, Van.
Where do you wish, Matt Schlapp, perhaps he had spent more time?
Trump?
Yeah.
I think the problem when you keep going back to these same states, when people keep going to Pennsylvania, when they keep going to Florida, that big plane can only land so many places, and you're hitting those same media markets. What I like about what he's done at the end is he's popped into states he hasn't spent a lot of time in. One visit to a state you haven't been in very much has a much greater impact than going back to those same old states. So as a Republican, am I glad we're playing in blue and purplish states at the end? Absolutely. And am I glad that I see the other team going to those very same states? Yeah, absolutely. She's playing for a close win. She's not playing for the Arizona, making progress in Texas win. This is going to be a cloud of dust as far as they're concerned. And so I like what I see strategically from the Trump campaign.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, what I would say is, listen, if you want to be, which of the candidates you want to be today, you definitely want to be Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is, I think, par for the course. In terms of where the map is and where it's headed, you definitely want to be Hillary Clinton. Now, in terms of the strategy for Trump, he had no other option but to go to these different places because he simply does not have the math unless he cracks that blue wall.
Does it help him to be the underdog? I've heard Kellyanne Conway say, I like being the underdog.
No.
That could work to their
Slightly.
advantage.
Look, I agree with you, Chris, that there is slight advantage Hillary Clinton right now. The numbers suggest that. But the enthusiasm is on Trump's side. And being an underdog, I think you are guaranteeing that those rallies we see of 20,000 here, 20,000 there, a lot of times these are rallies announced 6 hours in advance.
But rallies
Those folks are going to turn out.
translate into votes.
Hold on, but here's the deal. I think that two things are happening. There is visible enthusiasm from a lot of the white kind of pro-Trump voters, but there's an invisible surge with the Latinos. And so we don't know yet which of these surges is going to be the most important. And also I think it's what we want to be clear about too, is that the fact that in Arizona he might win by 2, that's insane.
No, it's not. That state is trending.
Well, and he accelerated that trend by his position on immigration. And also, when you look at other places, Georgia, he might win by 4 in Georgia. So
look,
something is happening in your party where the purple is gaining in the red a lot more than it's gaining in the blue.
I got a lot of respect for you, but even in 2004, we had early indicators in Arizona, in Georgia, and Louisiana. That's always that next ring of states that we worry about if you have a big African American turnout, et cetera. So I think actually what we're seeing here is different from what we're saying. I think that she is worried about these blue states. I think on the early vote, I could give you as many talking points and facts as to why actually what's happened in the early vote shows that this is going to be close and could be a Trump win, as I could hear about these other talking points. You look at the Hispanic turnout in Florida. It's not just the Cuban turnout, it's also the Puerto Rican turnout. Those voters, immigration is not their number one issue. They're Americans.
But
the I-4 let me finish. And the I-4 corridor is a place where Republicans do very well.
So let's look at Florida, just the numbers.
Okay.
Right now in Florida, as of today, Hillary Clinton is up about 88,000 early votes. Barack Obama was up about 110,000 or so early votes around this time.
Yeah.
He won the state by 72,000 votes. Right. Now, here's the big unknown. I will grant to everyone, right? We have had a surge in some of these key battlegrounds amongst independents. And the argument the Trump people will say is, well, the independents are going to track his way. But here's the reality. If you look at the polls, especially, for example, the Wall Street Journal poll today, independents are trending her way. If she pulls off, and historically that's not the case, Challenger tends to get more independents. If she gets more independents, she's going to win these key states. She's going to win, for example, Florida. She could win North Carolina.
It's nice, but she's not going to get a majority of these independents.
Well,
and the other thing,
you don't know, Matt.
It's so
I don't
unknown.
believe. Look, I'm allowed to make.
So unknown.
We're all allowed to make some predictions here. I don't think she's going to get a majority of independents, and I also think those folks, even in the CNN poll, who are undecided going into this race, you got to remember the number one dominant statistic in this campaign has been 70% of Americans saying the country's on the wrong track.
Right.
If you want to change Washington and New York City, you vote Trump.
I mean, here's the big problem with that. They
Final point,
they
quickly.
don't see Trump as the solution. That's
Thank you.
always been his problem.
Exactly.
And Hillary is such a great solution.
If the bus is driving in the wrong direction, you don't
Dan.
have a drunk guy to drive.
Dan, hey,
Enough of these car crash, drunk driving metaphors. We're about to hear from so many more. Several of the candidates later tonight. Philadelphia, we just heard from Donald Trump. North Carolina, she has a midnight rally in Raleigh as well. We're moments away from Hillary Clinton there in Michigan. This is the second rally of the day for her. And while her most powerful supporter, President Obama, is about to take the stage at the University of New Hampshire, we will have both of those events for you live on this election eve here. You're watching special coverage. I'm Brooke Baldwin. Thank you for watching.
We dig in now to the numbers in the race for the White House, with most national and battleground state polls showing Hillary Clinton ahead. As the number of undecided voters shrink by the day, we're joined by two people who have made a career in polling. Democratic pollster Peter Hart is founder of Hart Research and Associates. He's fresh from conducting a focus group of voters in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Whit Ayers, he's a Republican pollster and author of the book 2016 and Beyond, How Republicans Can Elect a President in the New America. And welcome to both of you. Let's talk about where this race stands nationally. Peter, what does it look like?
Well, it looks pretty uphill if you're Donald Trump, and on that side, you look at Hillary Clinton. She stands in much better shape, and the organizational efforts were going to be important for her. But I think she is primed to do very well on election night.
How do you see it, Whit?
If you look at an average of recent polls, Judy, Hillary Clinton is ahead by about 6 percentage points. To put that in perspective, Mitt Romney lost to Barack Obama in 2012 by 4 points, and John McCain lost to Barack Obama in 2008 by 7 points. So the deficit now is somewhere between the 2008 and 2012 numbers.
And Peter, if people watching want to know, okay, who and what are contributing to her doing well and his not doing as well, how would you describe that?
Well, she has broadened beyond this traditional Democrat.